Hi, everyone. I'm Linda Braun, and I'm here with Shannon Peterson and Hannah Buckland. And this is one in our series of Putting Teens First videos where Shannon and I are talking with interesting people about the interesting things they're doing with and for teens. So Hannah is a part of our Future Ready project, Future Ready Library. And Hannah, could you introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure. I'm the library director at Leech Lake Tribal College, and our library is joint use academic and community.
Great. Ooh, that was very good. You've done that a lot, I can
I
tell.
have, yeah.
So as I said, Hannah's part of the Future Ready with the Library project, and that project, as a reminder to people, is an IMLS funded project. Hannah's in the first cohort working with the community and middle school youth to help support college career readiness. And I guess actually the first question, Hannah, is, so how are you integrating the ideas of Future Ready or middle school college career readiness in your tribal community?
Well, we've partnered with Leech Lake Gaming. Leech Lake Gaming owns the 3 casinos on the reservation, and those 3 casinos plus the administrative side of gaming employ about 1,100 people. So it's a major employer for the area. Yeah, the whole reservation's about 10,000 people total. So out of everyone who's employed, a huge percentage of them are part of gaming. Gaming has a program called something I should know, Developing Today's Youth. It's a summer program for 8th grade graduates, so mostly 14-year-olds. The program kind of focuses on career readiness within gaming for these kids. It teaches them how to use time card machines and how to apply for a job and how to survive a job interview. And then they spend 10 weeks shadowing gaming employees. This is the 2nd year that program's been running. And so this year, as part of our Future Ready project, we're collaborating with them to make sure that the kids also get a good dose of college readiness. One of the things about having a library at a college that is incredibly wonderful is being able to really bring that college angle into programs and services. So when we have community members coming in asking questions about computers, we can also kind of guide them to actual computer classes that they could earn credit for. And then with these kids, we're having them come to the college. They spend 3.5 hours there. About half their time is spent with a college instructor, so taking like a mini college class. They've looked at macroinvertebrates. They have learned about local history. They are doing health and wellness today. We'll see how that goes.
Ooh.
And then, yeah, the other half of that time is spent working on a digital storytelling project. So that's kind of the big scope of what we're doing for this program.
That's awesome, Hannah. So did you integrate into the existing program, or did you kind of add on to it? Like, are you extending the program that already existed?
Yeah, we're kind of like, we found this little program that already existed and are building onto that.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a big part of the Future Ready piece, is working with, finding out what the community needs and what they're working on and where gaps are. So Hannah definitely did that with that program. And Hannah, you wrote a blog post about taking risks, and I know that the YALSA blog post about taking risks, and I know that this has not been straightforward, seamless, easy. So can you talk a little bit in general? You don't have to go into any gory details, but sort of what's been challenging and maybe some of the ways you've been dealing with that. Because I think that's always really helpful for her to be able to find out what didn't work and don't get all freaked out when it doesn't. You just have to keep going on. So do you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Sure.
I didn't tell Hannah I was going to do that, so.
I know. Well, I'm going to be intentionally vague here. So my formal library training was as a music cataloger. I spent 10 hours a week in a basement during grad school cataloging early 20th century sheet music for chamber orchestras that played along with silent movies.
Oh my God.
I know.
And you're like, oh, director of a community college, joint use. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right, and somehow I ended up going from that to tribal college library director, and then our library eventually became joint use academic and community. So one of the biggest risks that I've taken myself is just working with middle schoolers at all. When I first started at the tribal college, it felt like a really big stretch to work with college students at all. I did more of the behind the scenes stuff. No one really publicly cataloged sheet music, apparently. So that very first day, the middle schoolers were here. I'd actually tried very hard, maybe I shouldn't admit this, I had tried very hard to like find someone else to do the program, and I would just direct them. That was, I have director in my title, I was going to fulfill that. But instead, it just kept falling through and no one would step up. And it became very clear that if I wanted this program to work, I was going to have to take some responsibility and try something new. And I had told myself that we only really had to do an hour and a half of the program, see how things went from there. Maybe we would just cancel it early that day. But I did manage to sustain it for the full 3.5 hours. They came back the next week and we did the same thing. And from there, it's been a lot easier. So I think a lot of risk taking has to do with just accepting that you are going to do this and it will be fine. Ultimately, right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Shannon, any questions? I can keep asking them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so, it can be so challenging to like, I mean, going back to the previous question or a couple questions ago, like it can be a challenge to like adapt to what's already happening, like something successful that's already happening, because you may have ideas about like what you want to do. So, you know, I have huge respect for your sort of piggybacking on an existing relationship. I think that's awesome. So I guess hearing about your discomfort, which is great to hear about, we all face those situations, with like actually implementing the program, like what led you to apply to be part of the cohort? Like that must have been a bit of a stretch there too.
Yeah, I feel like Linda should cover her ears for this.
Cover your ears, Linda.
So when I saw the first call for participants go out, I immediately deleted it. And when I saw the second call go out, I also deleted it. And then when I saw the third call, I deleted that one as well. And then someone who I respect quite a bit emailed me directly and said, quite pointedly, let me know how I can help you with your application. So that was my cue that this is something you should try. And then that same person actually helped me set up a phone call with Linda before the program started. So I had the opportunity to talk to her beforehand. And I don't think I brought up any of my, like, I'm terrified of middle schoolers anxiety. But it was a good conversation. So from there I applied.
Yeah, and we had 63 applicants, had 20 spots. And obviously, you know, Hannah was meant to do it, even though she didn't know it. So, and now she's one of the cohort members. I think both cohort, we have a big cohort, then we have a small group, and she's one of the go-to people. But also you told me that people think, I think you're the one who told me this, people thinking of applying for this next cohort are actually contacting you. Am I right about that? Did I remember that correctly?
Yeah, I've had a couple of tribal college librarian pals who reached out to me and said, we saw your name on that list of participants. Can you tell us what you like and what you don't like about this?
Yeah, so that's really great. Because that's one of the things I love about this work is that you might not know that this is something you want to do or like to do, but you end up doing it because it's your community, right? And you need to serve your community. And then you're like, wow, that's pretty amazing. That's a great thing to be doing. So I guess I'd wonder also, like, what advice you might give to someone who's doing community work and working with middle schoolers. Do you have like a word or two of advice for others?
Hannah's wisdom.
Listen, that is my wisdom. Listen. This has come up in so many of our Future Ready conversations. I know the importance of listening. And I know it's really tempting to come into a conversation and be like, this is what I'm going to talk about and this is what I'm going to get out of it. But especially with these new partnerships that we're trying to forge in Future Ready, having that mindset of this is exactly what I am going to get out of this conversation really doesn't help, because so much of it is finding out what your partner needs and how you can build off that.
It's all about perseverance.
I suppose that helps too.
And relationships, perseverance in relationships. Maybe
yeah.
that's what it is. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else, Shannon?
Yeah, so Hannah, you've talked about your great work in the community. Just because I don't have a lot of context for the Future Ready cohort, can you talk about like maybe similar lessons that you've learned in that space, like from your cohort, and how that's working? Has there been learning and discomfort and anything else that you would talk about?
You mean like lessons I've learned through participating?
Yeah, so you're doing the work on the ground, but I guess how has it been enriched by being a part of the cohort and doing some of the professional development with that group?
Yeah, I think something that has surprised me, and it has probably surprised Linda too, is how like perpetually disappointed we can become as a cohort.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what
That's
it is,
interesting.
but like all of the July reflections were like, I am struggling. I am disappointed. Things aren't going as I had planned. And having that group of people who all are feeling kind of similarly down at the same time has been, first of all, just interesting to watch, and then kind of reassuring in a sense that this is difficult work overall. No one's really having an easy time with this, and I think we all thought it would be easier. That one's been a surprise. I've learned a lot about time zones as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Hannah, that's a really interesting point. You know, I had noticed that, but I hadn't quite. It's interesting because it goes back to the perseverance and working with community, right? Because one of the things that happened was we started in January, and at this point, people are really starting to implement, right? And you know, so everybody is sort of implementing at the same time, and it ends up that when there's a disappointment that, oh, this community partner can't follow through, or the kids didn't, whatever, it's all happening at a similar time. And it's also great in some ways, because for me, I'm saying, you know, it doesn't have to work right away, right? These are the lessons we're all learning, and maybe that's why it's good it's happening all at the same time, because we're all finding out at the exact same time, is that it is. I noticed, but I hadn't really internalized that, oh yeah, things go wrong for all of us. It doesn't mean we stop. Mm-hmm. And what's happened is different people are going, so if Hannah says this isn't working, one of the other cohort members goes, oh, I can help you do that, or maybe think about this. So even though people are struggling in their own space, they're actually trying to help each other figure out what to do. So it's interesting.
Well, and the fact that people are still like taking the time to post that it's not working, like they're still in it, like they're like working through it, which is great. It's like they're not just like dropping off the radar. They're like trying to figure it out. Like figuring it out is the fun part, and it will never be done.
And it doesn't necessarily seem like fun at the time.
Right, yeah.
Well, maybe for you, Shannon, I don't know.
I like struggle, apparently.
You love a good challenge. Yeah, it's really great. And I love that people are just, you know, coming in and saying different things. And at the beginning, actually, it was harder because people didn't know each other as well. And so it took a little time for people to start to feel comfortable. And then one person in the cohort actually took some time off, and she wrote a post on we have a community practice about how challenged she was feeling and how overwhelmed she was feeling just in general, not just with this project. And after that, I do think, I hadn't internalized this either, but I think that actually helped everybody else also go, okay, you know, I can feel sucky about this now too. And somebody came and said it, and now, and that's true. I hadn't really thought about that. Thank you, Hannah.
Yeah, well, I think too often we're encouraged to like only talk about our successes and not talk about the difficult process of getting there and the failures along the way.
Yeah.
Future Ready group has definitely been a space where it's like okay to talk about the fact that I totally missed that meeting, and like my partner isn't agreeing with me and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Do you guys feel like you intentionally like set that culture and those like norms, or has it just sort of happened, like in the case of that person who posted that things were crappy at the time or whatever?
What were you going to say, Hannah?
Oh, I was just going to say I'm whiny, so there was a lot of me whining.
God, Hannah, she's so whiny.
Yeah. She says she's whiny. She's not. She's honest. So I think it helped that Hannah did that risk blog post and then another one. And then when we had a face-to-face meeting in January. And we talked about Carol, who's our curriculum developer, and me and others talked about, like, this is risk. We don't know what's going to happen, really. So just try it and see what happens. Well, I don't think that made people feel comfortable. I hope we helped to set the tone that, you know, it's okay not to succeed right away. But I love, Hannah, can you talk a little bit more about what you're doing with the digital storytelling thing? Because that sort of just was not what you expected, right?
I still don't really know what I'm doing with the digital storytelling. We just have this group of middle schoolers, and they are supposed to be by my guidelines. So that's why I'm like, I don't know, maybe this isn't the way to go. I still have time to reconsider. The original intended outcome with the digital storytelling is that they would create some digital product, be it like a YouTube video or a podcast or whatever, to reflect on in some way or summarize or celebrate their experiences at the tribal college. As we talked more about their projects, they started coming up with some crazier ideas, like recreating the trailer from E.T.
That sounds really fun.
Or there was something, I haven't seen Star Wars, but there was something involving Star Wars and a map and going to class. There was also an idea that involved interviewing a local rap artist to ask him about his career and where he gets his ideas and all that. There was another group that wants to interview a basketball player or a former basketball coach from the college who now works at the Boys and Girls Club. So they know him through the Boys and Girls Club. Just all these really wonderful ideas. And I've learned, though, that it's very difficult to get 14-year-olds to like carry out their ideas. They love generating them. They don't much enjoy the actual process of, I don't know. That's something that we're still working on.
So that disappointment that you've learned to use productively, they may also need to learn that lesson, and you can coach them through that.
Yeah.
They may too experience a little bit of disappointment here. I don't want to say that, though. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, you will. I mean, you figured it out this far. You'll figure it out. I don't have any doubt.
And actually,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say next week is the final week, so if I haven't figured it out by then, all right.
Right. I think it sounds like, I mean, I just love the idea that they're getting to talk about what they're interested in through this, right? So whether it's the basketball coach who they know from that Boys and Girls Club, or the rap artist or whatever, it's here, and they're building a relationship with you, which to me is, no, it's not about me, but that's like one of the most important things, right? Is they're building a relationship with you, and then you can help them later figure out other kinds of things they might want to do.
Yeah, and not just me, but also the other instructors.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's such a huge point. I think we can get so tied to, I know my system is in the middle of summer learning, programming and camps and everything. And I think we can get so wrapped up in like, the camp's over. But the point is, like, we're good grown-ups for kids, like, no matter what time of year it is. So, like, just know those kids knowing you and, like, being able to come in and talk to you or the other instructors, like, that's the important thing.
Absolutely. That is the important thing. Any final words, Caitlin? Any advice about working with community or middle schoolers or college career ready or future ready? Any life, hopes, wishes, dreams, anything?
That's pretty
broad. Any parting words?
Any parting words?
That sounds less intimidating.
Thanks.
True.
I guess future ready applications are being accepted now, aren't they?
Correct.
Through September 1st?
Due September 1st, correct.
September 1st, yeah.
2017.
2017, right. Somebody might listen to this in 2030 and be thinking,
hey, listen. This is going to span the ages, guys.
Anyone who is considering applying for Future Ready should consider the value of risk and failure in the process of implementing any program. It's not all like successes and rainbows. It's also a lot of hard work.
And it's community-based. You're really working with your community to figure this out. Yeah. And Hannah actually remind me of something else. Hannah's going to be, so we have coaches for our Future Ready cohort members. And next year, Hannah's going to be one of our coaches. So the first year they were, since we didn't have a cohort before, where they were people from libraries and middle school development field. And now that we have successful Future Ready people, they're going to coach the new cohort. So that'll be great.
That's awesome. Are you coaching the coaches?
No.
Oh. Sorry, I got a little meta there.
That was like. Well, thank you, Hannah, for being our first informal interviewee. Really appreciate it, and good luck with the rest of the project. Shannon, anything you want to say to this world of watching us?
Oh, just Hannah, I've heard just wonderful things about your work. It was really nice to learn more about it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.